When Kaine's eyes flutter open, she sees a dozen villagers quizzically staring back. After a moment, she realizes she's collapsed on the ground, where sharp stones dig at her flesh like... Whatever, that's not important right now. She pulls herself to a knee before rising on unsteady feet and sparing a glance at her surroundings. The fuck? She mutters. What happened? Wasn't I just fighting shades? Her mind races as her hand gropes unconsciously for the blade that has been her constant companion for so very long. Though she can't explain it, it's clear she has somehow been transported to an entirely new world. Well, not entirely new. She recognizes the hawk-shaped weather vane twisting slowly in the wind above her, as well as the small, round homes with wisps of smoke drifting into the air. And of course, there are the villagers currently staring at her with a mixture of fear and disgust. Oh yes, they are a familiar sight indeed. She is in the Eyrie. She is home. Is something the matter, girl? Kaine spins around at the voice and sees a woman ravaged by time. Her narrow hips barely seem strong enough to hold her body upright, while the shawl wrapped around her thin frame appears ready to fall apart at any moment. Grandma? Is that really you? Her grandmother's eyes grow almost comically wide before blinking several times in succession. What's wrong, you fool girl? Is your head lost in dreams? Dreams? Could this be a dream? But it feels so real. But she's dead. Grandma's dead. I watched that goddamn shade kill her. So if this isn't a dream, how the hell is she here? Unless those shades killed me too. That must be it. I'm dead. I'm dead, and this is Oh, stop with that nonsense already. Kaine flinches as her grandmother raises a hand in the air, expecting pain to come as correction for her foolishness. But instead of a blow, her grandmother simply places a hand upon her granddaughter's cheek. The warmth of it instantly spreads from her cheek to her face before filling her entire body with a kind of beautiful light. What's wrong, girl? Asks her grandmother. Are you upset? Do you want to go home? Kaine feels tears coming to her eyes and struggles to hold them back. Though she still has no idea what is happening, she knows one thing for certain. This is her grandmother. Sorry, Grandma. Not sure where my head was at there. Well, just make sure you keep it attached, her grandmother chuckles as she pulls her hand away. Maybe this is a dream. Or maybe I'm already dead. I don't know. But either way, I'm not alone. As long as Grandma's with me, it's enough. Didn't I just tell you to stop spacing out, girl? Her grandmother says with a cackle. Here now, hold this. She hands Kaine a large sack filled to bursting with all manner of fruits and vegetables. Damn, Grandma, this is a lot. Well, it's important to treat yourself every now and again. Besides, these villagers may hate us, but the bastards are more than willing to take our money. We'll lend support as we can, even if they have to hold their noses while we do it. Her grandmother trails off as if trying to remember something, then slowly turns around. Well, what do you know? In all the excitement, I forgot to buy my medicine. A thin smile wavers on her face for a moment before vanishing into a lifetime's worth of crevices and wrinkles, causing Kaine to take a concerned step forward. No, Grandma, that's fine. You go home and rest. I'll get the medicine. Her grandmother hesitates, clearly trying to weigh her own need for rest against her granddaughter's odd behavior of a moment before. Before she can start to argue, Kaine charges ahead, ignoring the small voice in her head that's telling her what a bad idea all of this is. Really, Grandma, it's fine. Go home. I've got this. She pulls her grandmother's ancient wallet from her fingers, an act that requires a surprising amount of strength. Besides, you know how stubborn I am. Once my mind is set, there's no changing it. Humph. I wonder where you get that from. Seeing that further argument will be useless, her grandmother slowly turns and begins the long journey home. Kaine watches the figure recede from her vision, waiting for what seems an eternity to ensure everything is alright. Once the frail shadow finally vanishes over the horizon, she turns on a heel and makes for the apothecary. Ho there, says the elderly apothecary as Kaine enters the store. Here for Kali's medicine, are you? Though few villagers had ever bothered to learn her grandmother's name, she and the apothecary were old friends. Perhaps that was the reason he'd always showed her kindness when so many others did not. Yeah, if it's not a bother. The shopkeeper immediately sets about his work, deftly pulling bottles and herbs from the shelves and mixing them with a practiced hand. Soon, a peculiar smell begins to drift through the store, one that immediately reminds Kaine of her childhood. "There you are," says the apothecary as he holds out a small cloth bag. "Sorry for the wait. Oh, and say, that's a fine portrait you drew of your grandmother. Looks just like her, so it does. Honestly, I've never seen Kali so over the moon about anything. She brags about it every time she stops by." "You saw that?" says Kaine, her eyes narrowing. Said portrait was something she had whipped up one day after getting her hands on some crayons, and to call it rough would be an act of purest generosity. The idea her grandmother was displaying it around town makes Kaine's stomach want to sink down to her feet before slinking off into a hole somewhere. "You bet I saw it," the pleased apothecary says. "She brought it all the way here just to show me. My, but it's been a long time since I've seen something so wonderful." Kaine's mind begins to whirl. The picture was shit. She was sure it was shit. And yet, the man's reaction displayed the exact opposite opinion. Is he just being nice to me? The apothecary, as if sensing her skepticism, doubles down. "I could really tell you put your heart into it. It was simply wonderful." Thanks, offers Kaine, who just wants the entire conversation to be over. She briefly considers how she's going to make her grandmother cease her little traveling art show, but then realizes the train has likely left the station. Shaking her head to banish her increasingly shrill thoughts, she grips the bag of medicine tightly and turns to leave. But just as she reaches the door, she hears a loud thud from somewhere back in the shop. Kaine turns around to see the apothecary crouching on the floor. Hey there. You okay?" When the man does not reply, Kaine moves toward him. She assumes he just slipped on something, or perhaps hit his head on one of the low-hanging shelves inside the crowded shop, but the moment she draws close to him, she hears him begin to scream inside her mind. "My leg! My leg, my leg, my leg, my leg, oh god, where is my leg?" Panicked, Kaine looks down and discovers that the man's leg is gone. "Help me!" screams a voice in her head. "Help me!" As Kaine looks on in horror, the man's fingers begin to shimmer and vanish. He reaches out for her with his other hand, only to find that it, too, is no longer there. Soon his arms go. Then his legs. Then the side of his face warbles out of existence, causing a stray eyeball to roll out of its socket and onto the floor. "Hell," says the voice, if it could even be called that anymore. "I can't." A moment later, what remains of the pitiful shopkeeper collapses into a heap of ash, releasing a small puff into the suddenly silent air. As Kaine stumbles back in horror, she hears a cacophony of terror rising up outside. "Oh god, what's happening? My arms! Where are my arms? Why can't I see?" Kaine bursts out of the store and finds herself in a nightmare. Homes slough off the sides of cliffs, taking out pieces of scaffolding as they fall. Screams echo out everywhere, creating an opera fit for hell. Villagers run in mad circles before exploding into dust, their clothing drifting this way and that as it floats untethered through the air. As she stares at the scene, wide-eyed, a single thought suddenly inserts itself into the forefront of her mind. "Grandma!" Kaine breaks into a run, the crumbling world around her suddenly forgotten. She leaps from one piece of falling debris to the next, using them as stepping stones to cross a world that is increasingly losing cohesion. As she continues her mad dash, flecks of ash are blown into her face, her mouth, her eyes. Ash, 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 ash. Buildings and people, all reduced to so many cinders in the wind. Soon she arrives at her childhood home. It was once a place filled of precious memories, a place she regarded as an oasis in an increasingly mad world. But now, it is nothing but a pile of ash. As she gapes unbelievingly at the sight, a faint sound suddenly reaches her ears. Nay. She's alive. Grandma's alive. With a speed born out of panic, she leaps into the giant pile and begins shoving it aside. It stings her eyes and burns her lungs, but she continues on, heedless of the danger. Finally, she pulls a small, blackened form out of the darkness. "Come on, Grandma," she whispers. "We're getting out of here." Without waiting for a response, Kaine gathers her grandmother in her arms and breaks into a mad run, hoping to escape the chaos. But the wave of ash has become a tsunami, and before she can make it more than a few desperate steps, it reaches out with a cruel hand and overwhelms them. Kaine stumbles and falls, sending her and her grandmother tumbling into the ashes. One glance at her feet is enough to reveal the culprit. Her right leg has vanished at a point just below the knee. "Oh, it'll take more than that to stop me," mutters Kaine as she slings her grandmother over her shoulder and begins to crawl away. "We're going to make it. We're going to live." As she crawls, her grandmother seems to grow lighter, as if trying to magically reduce the weight of her own burden. As Kaine continues to struggle, she hears a small, soft voice enter her ear. "Thank you, Kaine. Thank..." As the voice drifted away, the last pile of ash that used to be her grandmother drifts away on a soft breeze. Kaine screams, an impossibly sad and lonely sound, and begins trying to pull the ashes back to her. This can't be happening. It can't be happening. But the ashes are mingling with all the other detritus from the collapsed village. Sorry, I actually forgot how to pronounce that word. And soon she can no longer tell which particles belong to who. Come on. Come on. Come the fuck on already. As she continues her frantic digging, her hand suddenly closes around a piece of soft, ragged fabric. Her grandmother's shawl. I knew this place was a lie. I knew it, and I still couldn't do anything. I couldn't save anyone. I couldn't even escape. I just felt the peace in the place, and I accepted it. I wanted it. That's why there was nothing there. Here. No reason to live. No goal. No anything. So this is why I'm...
Say.
Suddenly, a new voice enters Kaine's world.
I say, can you hear me?
After a moment, the voice calls out again. Louder. Clearer.
Now then, you wish to get him back, hmm?
Him? Replied Kaine. Who are you talking about?
For the love of all the heavens, I always did know you were a handful.
Though the voice immediately begins to grate on Kaine's nerves, there is something else as well. A kind of warmth. Almost a familiarity.
Are you truly so daft that you have already forgotten one of your beloved traveling companions and friends?
Says the voice, which causes something deep in Kaine's memories to surge forth. That's right. I had friends, and I was fighting to get one of them back. At this realization, a blinding, radiant beam of light shoots out across the ash-covered world. Covering her eyes with one trembling hand, Kaine reaches for it.
Do hurry back now, hussy. What is the matter? Do you still not remember? You have not time to become lost in your thoughts.
Right. Okay. Let's get him back!
Power of Grimoire Vice grants you the use of magic.
I use my magic to topple the beast. I presume you know how to use magic, yes? Then give us a show, hussy!
I don't need your help to take out this goddamn fuckwaffle!
Welcome back, Vice. Missed you for a minute.
Use my power to knock the creature down with magic.
Done and done. You got it, buddy.
Well done! Now clobber the beast!
Let's fuck it up good!
Indeed.
Shit, this thing is tough.
Let the next onslaught be our last.
Hey, Vice.
Yes.
Thanks.
Have you been in your cups again?
Fuck your face.
That's more like it.
Oh, I love them. And it's time to jump there.
Sound of mind, hussy. What you're attempting is extremely...
Cram it, book. I'm doing this.
I see.
Also worth mentioning the rearrangement of Kaine Salvation in the background.
Let not your resolution waver before mere illusions again, hussy.
Don't worry. I'll do what needs to be done.
I've mentioned it before, and I'll say it again. I really love the dynamic between the characters in this game. There's something very endearing about it. Here we go, one more time. Oh wow, it fell on me.
Do not relent in your assault.
Time to close this out.
Yep, time to seal the deal. Oh, missing just the one piece there.
Let us finish this.
This is a replicant's potential.
Don't come. Gotta go back. Don't come.
Shut up, shut up! I already made up my mind. Nobody tells me what to do. I swore I would be a sword. I swore that I would be your sword. Do you hear me? So I am going to get you back, and I don't care what it takes. Who the fuck do you think you are to just up and disappear like that, huh? I'm the one who gets to decide what my life means to me. It's my life, and I'll do whatever I want with it. So quit wasting time like a brainless fuckwit and get your ass back here now!
Well, this is a nice parallel to the way that endings C and D were framed. White Void, fallen character. Do you want to recover the person you cherish? Yes. If you choose this option, your current save data will be erased, and the save data deleted in ending D will be restored. Are you sure about this? It's exactly the same as ending D, except in reverse. What is the name of the person you cherish? The correct name was entered. All save files will be restored. These endings juxtaposed with one another kind of really embody the phrase, you don't know what you have until you lost it. And previously, this was unprecedented. In both Automata and the original release, there was only the option to sacrifice your save data. This is the first time that I know of personally that this franchise turns around and says, how about we bring it back?
I leave the rest to you, hussy.
Our journey may have been meaningless.
Our past may have been a mistake.
But we're not going back.
Even if this world comes to an end.
Because this is the world with the people we cherish.
Very interesting. Very, very interesting. So, as obviously the story played out the same, but in Grimoire NieR, it was kind of going to the Forest of Myth, encountering the tree, which is called Sleeping Beauty, if I remember correctly, and bringing back NieR from non-existence. Now, obviously, there was a lot more added in there with the connection between Kaine's dreams in Route B and her recollection of those same memories here, except that they were replicated memories, obviously. Oh dear, the frame rate bug decided to hit me now, right at the end. But I'll keep talking a little bit regardless, so, because I just want to get my last few thoughts out, because this is the last of the content that I have to do for this game. It's been an enjoyable ride. Besides the weapon grinding, the weapon upgrade grinding was the worst, but I mean, that's grinding in general. I'm not going to hold it against this game personally. I feel like this ending is very emblematic of another theme of this franchise in general, or maybe not so much a theme, but kind of a message that it tries to posit, and that is that regardless how terrible things may seem, how hard things may seem all the time, there's always that little sliver of hope somewhere that can be drawn from all the darkness that seems to be all-consuming, that seems to envelop everything that you know. Yeah, there's Kira Buckland as girl, and presumably here's Kyle McCarley as boy. The AI in Sleeping Beauty. as I said at the outset of this playthrough, I absolutely adore this game. I absolutely adore this franchise. It's not perfect by any means. There are many, many things I could pick apart in several of its media and characters and whatnot. But I hope that I was able to convey a lot of what makes these games so great. It's definitely not the gameplay, I'll tell you that. But the storytelling, the narrative, the music, they're all so well done that it leaves a lasting impression. And obviously it was enough to warrant a sequel in the form of Automata, which at this point in time has become a force of nature in of itself. I mean, I'm fairly certain it's safe to say that Automata was responsible for putting this series into the mainstream, and it made it possible for this remaster of the game to even exist. And I am thankful for that. Returning to this game, I am very pleased with many of the updates. As I said, there were some line readings that I felt were a little more impactful than the original, but lightning doesn't always strike twice, so they say. And I mean, that's fine, but the rearrangements of the tracks, I mean, some people aren't happy with the direction that it took, in the sense that most of the tracks were made more orchestral to align more with Automata's pieces. I love them. I think they're great. I think they're beautiful. Both versions, both the original versions and the remasters, are beautiful, and both warrant listening to well after the fact. I love the characters. I love that they are non-traditional without too much attention being drawn to them. Well, I mean, they do draw attention, but it's not blatant, I guess. And I'm really, really glad to see this final ending fully realized, because it was originally planned for the original release of the game, if I recall correctly, but due to time constraints it was not implemented and only was realized in text form. Visit that woman's house to acquire a new weapon. Look at that. Emil's staff, Kusanagi, and Kaine's blades, with some lunar tear petals floating across the screen. So very thankfully, upgrading Kaine's sword to level 4 only takes some very, very easy to acquire weapon materials, which means that accessing its story is very, very easy, obviously. With that being said, I'm going to read the story now, and it'll be the last weapon story. All the other ones have been covered in a separate video, but because this one is tied to ending E, I'm going to keep it here with ending E. Kaine's sword. She fears. She fears the pain, the suffering, the sadness of losing those she cherishes. However faint, that feeling alone remained with her. She fights. Her swordsmanship is so violent, it wards off sorrow itself. Nothing can stop her vengeful blade its grim work, not even the fountains of blood that cloud her vision. She dreams. The darkness sings to her of solitude and despair, but she resists, time and again, never breaking. She presses on. Even if the future that awaits has no meaning, she presses on. Because this is the world with NieR.